we go with Fish Talk Radio, Talk Fishing and Boating.
Hello and welcome again to Fish Talk TV. It's fishing for the rest of us. I'm Charlie.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Joe.
And we bring this to you almost every week here on Fish SJ. We want to say hello to everyone, welcome our regulars back, and let you know we appreciate emails and contact with us. Let us know how you like the show and what you think. If you've got any ideas, or even if you want to come join us here at the round table or square table, as the case might be, we would love to hear from you and know how you think about our fishing shows here each week. So, look, without ado, let's get right into a little bit. First of all, the weather we were talking about earlier. This week was still in the 90s. But at least it wasn't the killer 100s.
Yeah, we didn't have quite the same humidity this week, nor the temperatures weren't quite as high. A little chilly for me, but it was tolerable for most people.
Well, chilly means anything under 100 for Joe.
I'm in long sleeve shirts right now. But it really wasn't as bad this week, and it actually made our fishing journey this week a little bit more enjoyable.
It sure did.
It was beautiful out there. We took a ride out to the Cape May Reef, and the temperature was probably low 80s when we got out there. It was beautiful.
It was. When we first left, it was warm until about, I guess it was about 3 miles out. It was humid, it was sticky and muggy and so forth. As soon as we start to hit that blue water, is when temperatures started to go down, the humidity started to leave.
It was interesting, Charlie. You and I were looking at the temperature gauge as we were driving out. The inshore waters were actually cooler than the offshore waters. Remember, they were in the 60s as we were driving out, and as we got toward the reef, they went to 69, 70, 71. I think eventually made it to about 72.
Yes.
When we made it to the reef.
Yeah.
So those offshore, deeper waters were actually warmer than the inshore waters, which were kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
Well, it normally comes when there's a west wind. I've heard some of the explanations for this is that there's an upwelling because of the pushed water. It goes offshore and it brings in deeper, colder waters into the shallows. As we talked about last week when Mark and I were in the Absecon Inlet, during those truly dog days when they were in the hundreds plus, the waters there were just barely 59, 60. So that must be the reason why you get these sort of continued west winds, or whatever it was, whether west or south or whichever they were definitely causing some cooler waters to come inshore.
Well, it was certainly very pretty when we got out there. You know, there was the waters were fairly smooth. I guess when we got out there, it was about maybe 1 foot.
About that.
You know, give or take, and a nice breeze, not a wind, and I think that really added to the niceness of the day. Then the best part of the day is the fact we caught fish.
Yeah. Well, started off, think about it, with squid. Yeah, we were catching squid. Couldn't get them into the boat because they were lead go, because they really weren't biting it. They were sort of like Patrick from SpongeBob doing the line ride. You know, they were just coming up, eating the minis' heads off, and then jumping off when they get to the top, going, "Thanks a lot."
Yeah, but Todd, your son, got 2 black sea bass keepers.
Yeah,
man, right in the first 5 minutes we were there.
Big humpbacks with the blue faces and the whole bit.
Well, we altogether, I guess, we caught about 35 between the 4 of us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, no keepers as far as flounders are concerned.
No.
But we had a variety.
We had a lot of skates.
We had a lot of skates. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of, aside from black bass, some skate, and a number of short flounder. That's about all we had. I didn't see anybody else around this catch much.
No, not much either. You know what's interesting, Charlie? When we go out on your boat and we do flounder fishing, we're primarily either in the bay side or out in the ocean like we were this week in the Cape May Reef. And the flounders that we were catching were coming up tan and spotted, as opposed to the darker browns and blacks that we get. As you know, flounder have that capability of changing the color and mimicking the substrate they're on. They must be on white sands or brown sands in those deeper waters, or some kind of a gravel that they're on down there, which is so much different than when we go to the Absecon area when they're on those muds, which are dark and black.
They're darker.
They're very dark. So that was pretty interesting to me to see the real great diversity in color that we're able to see in these fish.
Well, we stayed at the north side of the reef and hung around just south of the objects down there. and drifted back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I noticed that a lot of the headboats were sitting on the south end this time. I don't know whether that really means anything or not, but they were sitting there, I guess, about 1.5 miles south of us, and while it's difficult to see, I don't know whether they really did any better or not.
Well, if they were, I would think we would have heard screams.
Well, when that west wind, actually it was a west-southwest wind, came up, it really started affecting the drift to the point where I couldn't keep touch with the bottom. In fact, Joe, you had 6 ounces on.
6 ounces on with the braided line, which is as narrow as you can get, and I had a hard time holding bottom. Now it is pretty deep; it's 60 feet plus, but normally with 6 ounces, I should be straight down, something plowing the bottom.
Well, I'll just want to let everybody know that while I wasn't a high hook, I did get a really aggressive clamshell. Now, this clamshell fought and fought, and
it fought better than Todd female.
And it's pretty sad when you bring this up, and this is your claim to fame. Boy, hence fishing for the rest of us.
And it stayed on for 60 feet all the way up, and he fought it. And he thought he had something. He had the net now.
Look, fellas, I have no pride. I get what I get, and I show it off. Now, some other fishing reports, however, I've got to open the last couple of days. Down the old ground, they're still hitting it pretty hard. Now, the old ground is about 21 miles south of Cape May, just out there, the federal waters off of Delaware. By the way, you don't need the Delaware badge there.
I heard because it's in federal waters.
It's in federal waters. So,
how do you prove that you caught it in federal waters when you're coming back in?
Well, don't stop.
Okay.
Well, that works.
and we'll be on like California TV where the helicopters and boats chase you.
Whoa, yeah.
It's the OJ chase.
Well, no, if you look at the orientation when you come out of Cape May, you'll be more than 3 miles off of Delaware's coast all the way down. That's
yeah.
right.
So, and plus the fact that Delaware will not bother you out there. They know that's federal waters and it's not their jurisdiction. However, they're doing a lot of nice 4 to 7 pounders reported last week.
Wow.
If I know, Jack went out on a charter, and they got about 8 of them of that kind of size.
Nice.
Jack got one of these or less, but the other people on the boat did rather well. The other place where there's been a fair amount of activity this last week has been down on the inside of the Cape May Riffs. It's my understanding that they were there drifting back and forth on the inside of the Cape May side of the shipping channel and doing fairly well with a fair number of keepers down that direction. They weren't giants like down at the old ground, but my understanding there were a lot of 20s, 22s caught.
That's good.
So sounds like the bay's emptying out.
Well, here it is. It's early August, late July from last week. It's been our experience, Mark, that especially where we fish up in Brigantine, the fish start to move out fairly early. They're moving out toward the inlets and pretty much gone by the end of this month. Now, in the past, we've been able to fish for flounder into September and early October and get some, but those days are either gone or things have changed anymore. By the end of July, most of our prime flounder fishing is gone.
Well, you know, prime flounder fishing is something we love, that's true, especially we inshore guys. However, I used to get and love to catch bluefish and weakfish. Have you heard, aside from that one weakfish that you caught the north end there at Brigantine, I haven't yet to hear anybody talk about anything of any consequence.
What's funny, Charlie, you say about that, but in the fishermen, the contest for the boat, there's only one entry for a weakfish in the weakfish column.
What size?
7.4 pounds.
The minimum size is 7, so they're 4 ounces above the minimum. There's 10 spaces. There's only one put in, and this covers Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, of course Long Island's part of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and I think it also covers Maryland.
So one fish.
One fish.
Wow. So you can see that the populations are down.
There's definitely something happening, a rotation. We talked about this a couple of shows ago where there's something happening in the fishery that we're not aware of. But
and bluefish are in that mix too, even though there's some big blues out to be had right now. Somehow bluefish are part of this mystery.
I read just some time ago that the last, 10, I guess it's 10, 11 years, that the bluefish population have dropped 80% or more. And of course they're a very hardy fish because they are one of the top on the line relative to fish are concerned. They eat everything else.
That's right. They're the top of the pyramid when it comes to it. Them, striped bass, and weakfish. And when it comes to the ones with the teeth, the other two are below them. Yeah. So they're top of the pyramid. They're also great runners. They can run anywhere between the Gulf of Maine and northern Florida and out 50 miles. So they have tremendous range. And with that kind of range, they're constantly searching for food. Tells me that food must be short.
Yeah, there's something definitely happened. I know we had discussion of the fact of the way that the government is managing the fisheries, that we're in a situation where they are focusing on a single species, and as this is the dogfish, holding that, and then the problem is they overpopulate, and then they're eating the fry of everything else.
Yeah, well,
good balance of management.
Well, it's a type of thing it's like knowing when to break. And sometimes you just don't know when to pull back on those things when they're going to reach that biological large mass to cascade and do bad things. Another thing associated with that is the loss of menhaden. In fact, our story in The Fisherman this week talks about menhaden management and how Omega Fish Products, which is the big fishery out of Chesapeake, they're actually out of, believe it or not, Houston, Texas. And they're fishing us out of house and home up here. They're sort of driving the market and how it works. They get, I think the way it works, they get either 80 or 75% of the catch. The other 20 or 25% of the catch goes for bait. Everything else goes into the fish products. And they are hitting it so hard that they're very afraid that that one company may be getting close to crashing this population. So they're starting to raising their head up about these forage fish. They did it a while back in the Gulf of Maine with the sea herring.
Right.
You saw where they closed all herring.
Right, they closed it.
Well, it's going to come to the point right now that they're starting to actually turn their attention toward menhaden. It's about time. And that's part of the problem.
And so many people are taking fish oil now. Sounds like there's a big demand. And hopefully we won't wipe out the species because of it.
Well, we were out fishing, and like we do every week, we like to bring in some pictures of what we caught. So let's take a look at some pictures right now.
Let's go! Go! Here we go with FishTalk Radio, talk fishing, and boat. So much more. Get weather, fish better. You'll be ready when the big one bites. Let's go! Gotta go. Here we go to FishTalk Radio.
And welcome back. We hope you enjoyed those photographs and saw the things that we caught and what we did during the course of our last fishing trip. Hey, if you've got some photographs, send them in. Even if you've got videos, we're glad to publish them here on Fish SJ and talk about them on FishTalkTV. An important part about fishing, of course, is boating. And we don't spend too much time talking about boating, but I think it's certainly worthwhile, specifically when you're out there and you listen to your VHF radio about what's going on and so forth and so on, chatting back and forth. But it might be important to also talk about how to use it and what's the different terminology that's used for on the radio. With that, we're going to spend a few minutes and specifically go over information sent along to us by the Office of Boating Safety about using your VHF radio, specifically channel 16, what that's all about.
This would be an emergency situation that we're talking about.
Right, Joe. 16 is specifically used for emergencies. We do have a lot of people call other things for it, but if you're going to make calls, you really should do that on channel 9. That's the other common ship-to-ship channel or ship-to-shore channel. Channel 16 is specifically supposed to be set aside for emergencies. Now, in the case of emergency, there are three specific terms that are used. The first is Mayday, the second is Pon-Pon, the third is Security. And to read specifically what the Office of Boating Safety has to say, Mayday is a request for immediate assistance. Listen, do not transmit. The reason, by the way, you don't want to transmit is that you may override the emergency message. Determine if you're in a position to help. If not, maintain radio silence. Mayday identifies an immediate and imminent life-threatening emergency. That's why you don't want to transmit. False use of that, by the way, is an offense for which you can go to jail. And by the way, any cost involved with coming out to identify and respond to a false Mayday, you are also responsible for it.
You know that's going to be expensive because you know they're going to send a small boat, they're going to send a helicopter, and if necessary, a cutter or something like that.
You're responsible for all costs involved, men, crew, equipment, everything. So, needless to say, a false Mayday is not a funny thing. Next one is Pon-Pon. Now, the OBS says that it's used when safety of a boat or person is in jeopardy, such as man overboard messages sent using Pon-Pon. Pon-Pon is still an emergency. However, it's not specifically life-threatening at the moment. It's a notification of some imminent issue. Lastly is Security. Security is used to pass along navigational information, specifically like a hazard, as an instance. Coming down the Delaware River, one time we spotted telephone poles coming down after it was a heavy rain, and there was Security. Each one of these words you'll say 3 times and then respond. And Mark, why don't you give an example of a Mayday call?
Okay. This is how the Mayday call should go. Transmitted on channel 16 on your VHF radio. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Name your boat 3 times. Repeat once more, and then Mayday again, and then your boat name. Now report your position. Give an accurate position, as accurate as possible. Report the nature of the emergency. Report the kind of assistance desired. Report the number of people on board and the condition of any injured. And then description of the boat and the seaworthiness of the boat. Then wait for a response. If there are no response, if there's no response, repeat the message again. In fact, Joe, you got a real good example of that.
Yeah, I'll give you an example as if I'm at sea and I've got a problem. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Blue Duck. Blue Duck, Blue Duck. Mayday. Cape May, light bears 185 degrees magnetic. Distance 2 miles. Struck submerged object. Needs pump, medical attention, and a tow. 3 adults, 2 children on board. 1 person compound fracture. Estimate can remain afloat for about 2 hours. Blue Duck is a 32-foot cabin cruiser. White hull, blue deck. Over.
And of course, as Mark said, if there's no response, you'd want to do that again.
How soon should you wait?
I would only wait really several seconds. If you don't hear anything in 10 seconds, do it again.
Really?
What happens is the Coast Guard monitors 16 all the time, and not just from one location, but multiple locations. That's how they can triangulate in on you. Hence, when you don't get a response, there's an issue, something maybe with your radio. Of course, that you maybe should have checked before you started out. Or your boat may be in a situation where it can't transmit because all the electrical is dead. Now you have a real issue. The other way of handling an issue, of course, is today using cell phones. Almost everybody has one, and certainly should be bringing them along with us.
But it's only good for a certain amount of distance out in the ocean.
That's right.
After you get past 10 miles or so, they're pretty much useless.
If you're going to go past that point, you really should have a secondary VHF radio, specifically a portable, something that's not relied upon your alternator or something like that on your boat.
They also have satellite radios if you're going to go, further than.
That's for the big serious guys, right?
Yeah, well, you can get them. I mean, they're not that expensive anymore. They really come down in price.
That's not like they used to be.
No.
What kind of costs?
Probably less than $1,000.
Well, we're talking about safety,
Well, at the same time, you also have the e-burps. Those are very important devices that if you're going to go out far, You want one of these.
Another one, which is probably a type of those, which are the spot products, which are like them, a little bit smaller, personal, which track you by GPS and have a Mayday function by single press of a button.
So there are numbers of ways to protect yourself, your family, and your passengers. Because as you are sitting at the helm, you are in fact captain of the boat and specifically responsible for everyone's safety. So I hope that this information that we passed along today is of use to you and that you'll learn it, the Mayday, the Pon-Pon, and Security. God willing, you'll never have to use them. Gentlemen, with that, I guess the last thing is we want to encourage people to get involved with our website and send information, send us comments, emails. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. And we respond and right here on Fish Talk TV. Guys, with that, we'll time to call it a day.
Okay.
So with that, we'll pull anchor and say that we'll see you next time. And I'm Charlie.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Joe.
Keep your rods in the water.
Let's go! Go! Here we go with Fish Talk Radio, talk fishing and boat.